guys, welcome back to my channel. So today actually before I even get into what I'm going to talk about today, just before you start asking questions, I have little they look like lightning bolts. I don't know, I was just feeling creative with my makeup today and I wanted to be like a little bit more like witchy. So I love this lip combo. It's giving. But yeah, this is what I have on, and then I have a glass of Dr. Pepper. This cup is huge. I just realized how big this is. And I'm so excited. I have my water pipe. If you know, you know. My Labubu water pipe. This shit is yeah. How cool is that? It's literally a Labubu. Like, what? That's so cool. And I just like the fact that you can't really see how dirty it, I mean, you can kind of see how dirty my water pipe is. But if it was like clear, you'd see how dirty it really is. But I feel like my first two videos I feel like they were quite serious, which obviously I'm going to be talking about a lot of serious topics on this channel. But if you do know me, then you know that I do like to have a hee-hee and a ha-ha and a kiki and a caca. Not caca, but a hee-hee and a ha-ha. And yeah, I think when you're talking about things like this, obviously there is a time and a place, and with the memification, I'm gonna say memification, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but the memification of everything in this day and age, I completely understand how some people are like, oh, not everything needs to be joked about, which is true, not everything needs to be joked about. But sometimes, when it comes to like really hard topics, especially in terms of like Christianity and stuff, which for me, I do have a lot of trauma and stuff with, I find it easier to discuss in a little bit of a lighthearted way. So I'm gonna try and do that, you know, in areas where I feel like it's appropriate to like make a little joke. But obviously, there's certain things that we're not gonna joke about. Yeah. So basically today what I wanted to talk about, and because I have really been thinking about, you know, the topics that I do want to discuss on this channel, and so I've been contemplating what it is I wanted to talk about, and I think today I decided on something that I actually think is very, very important, and I can't believe I didn't talk about it yet, but then again, this is only my third video, so I don't know. But I wanted to talk about something that is very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very relatable or very appropriate for the times, and that is the specifically American Evangelicals' obsession and consistent defense of Donald Trump. And that's going to be the main topic for the video today. So before we get into the video, I just want to say, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, comment. But don't comment right now, comment after, like, your thoughts and opinions, whatever. But like, yeah, like and subscribe. So I just wanted to talk about basically why, especially American, because obviously he's the president of America, but why so many American evangelicals just continue to defend Donald Trump no matter what he does. And I think that's pretty evident with, you know, what's going on in the world right now. America and Iran and Israel are at war with each other. But one of the things Donald Trump campaigned on was no more wars. That was kind of like one of his promises, one of his aims, one of the things that he sold to the public as, you know, a reason as to why they should vote for him. He was the candidate that was going to stop all the wars, that was going to stop, you know, making America put their nose in other people's business, other countries' businesses. And what happened? More wars. But yet, so many Trumpians or Trumpers or MAGA are still defending him. In fact, they're coming up with new ways to defend him. They're saying, oh, yes, he campaigned on that, but the situation has changed. Or actually, this is very beneficial for America if we were to take control and have regime change. So, yes, it's a war, but, you know, it's not a bad thing. And it's like, but this is exactly what you didn't want, you know? And I think it's easy to talk because obviously, especially in the UK, for the people who do support Donald Trump here, which I don't know why he would do that. I think it's really easy to talk and support him, especially because we're not at the point yet where, you know, people are being forced to enlist into the army. We're not at the point where there is a draft Although there have been talks to include or introduce a draft, so that's freaking me the fuck out. But I think it's so simple for people to talk right now because that isn't happening. But I do foresee, if there is a draft or something like that does occur or, start, and not just America, but maybe even if the UK, wants to start enlisting their people, I think there's going to be uproar. I think there's going to be people, saying, wait, hold on, this isn't what I voted for. But before we even get to that point, I wanted to talk about why it is that they keep defending him. Why do they keep finding ways to justify what he's doing, even when it goes against their own beliefs or so-called beliefs? Because Christians are called to be Christ-like. They're called to act in the way Christ did. They're called to also support candidates that represent that lifestyle. And as I said in my last video, does Donald Trump give any fruit of the Spirit? No. But yet so many religious people, evangelicals, still find a way to support him. And that's what I want to touch on. That's really what I want to get to the crux to, is why do they keep doing that? And how do they keep finding ways to justify it that sits okay with that, And one of the points that I think is, God, that's not the way I was trying to say that. Just point one. So, a lot of religious people view Donald Trump through their lens, and that lens is obviously a Christian evangelical worldview. Some people compare him, and I've actually heard someone I know say this, they compare him to the Persian King Cyrus, who was a non-believer that God used to protect the Israelites. Which, if you kind of look at what's happening, I can understand why they see that, because Donald Trump is such an avid supporter of Israel, He has one-on-ones with Netanyahu so much. Wasn't he deferring what's happening in Iran to Netanyahu? And it's like, bro, you're the leader of a country. What do you mean you're deferring it to someone else? What? That's insane. So I can actually understand, that's if you're a Christian, I can understand why you would, think maybe this is prophetic, but this is why I have such an issue with religion, because it allows people to defend the indefensible. It allows people to go against their own so-called ingrained morality because the higher power says so. I feel like it really does make people so, what's the word I'm looking for? Just allows them to just turn off their brain and not use their critical thinking skills. And I really think it's just so lazy. It's just such a cop-out, Of course it's so easy to be well, God said so. Bitch, are you not gonna, give me more than that? Okay, thanks, girl. Thanks for giving us nothing. I don't know. But yeah, they think of him like Cyrus. And so that, again, validates their belief. Oh, can you see it's like Cyrus? It's like the Bible happening all over again. The prophecy happened. You see, and they will always... Oh, God, that's another thing with the religious people. They can always find something to link it back to the Bible. They can always... If it's good, God is the one that brought us this good thing. If it's bad, God is just testing us. He just wants our faith to be strong. They can always find a way to justify it. That's the problem with religion. It's an issue. It's a problem. Okay, so the next point as to why I think so many religious evangelicals continue to defend Donald Trump. And I think it's because he announces, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but he often espouses typical evangelical talking points. So things like overturning Roe v. Wade. That's something that so many evangelicals, want to happen. They don't think abortion should be, accessible, should be legal. And so him appointing Supreme Court justices that want the overturning of Roe v. Wade, or wanted the overturning of Roe v. Wade, was monumental for them, and again solidified their belief that he was this non-believing. He's this non-believing king who's doing things for the good of the kingdom. And it's just oh my God, he's literally setting you people backwards. Oh, this is another thing that I just this is why religion just drives me up the wall. And there's something I actually mentioned in my phone call to my dad the other day. I said one of the things I understand about religion is just how powerful of a tool it is, because it, like I said, it allows people to defend the indefensible. It completely warps the mind. And it's no wonder that slave owners, taught their slaves Christianity. They taught them this religion. Because of course they're not going to rebel if you're literally teaching them that this higher power says, slaves, obey your masters, obey your masters. Like, it literally says that. It's no wonder that they taught them religion. And they also used that religion to justify why, our Africans were enslaved. They said it was a curse. If you look in to some, I don't know if it's just some sects, but I don't think it's just like different sects, just different Christians in general do believe that black people are a result of a curse. Even though, like, science obviously tells us why melanin is the thing, but there are some people that say, the result of black skin is due to a curse, which is absolutely disgusting and just so racist. But that was what they used to justify why Africans were enslaved, and that is also why colorism is such a huge problem in our cultures, but especially in African American culture. That really is where it stems from, because they thought that white skin was good and godly and black skin was bad and of the devil. They thought lighter was better. So if you were lighter skinned, that was seen as better. And that's even something that, a lot of Afro-Latinos will tell you, is that something that I remember I watched a video, I think it was on BuzzFeed or something like years ago, and one thing that this beautiful dark-skinned Latina woman said was something that she'd heard all her life was mejorar la raza. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Mejorar la raza, I think. And it means bettering the race. And that basically means marrying someone who is not of African descent or is of lighter skin to better the race. And that was something that she had heard her whole entire life and had been told. And it's just like things like that just disgusts me. That's why I have such an issue with religion. But I'm going off topic, but this is why, again, so many evangelicals support Donald Trump, because he does espouse these things, like I mentioned with the Roe v. Wade. These are things that they believe to be biblically sound. They do think that abortion is a sin. They do think that, having an abortion is killing a baby, which I completely disagree with. I think your body, your choice, every woman should have the access and the choice to abortion. And I also just think if you're a smart person, you would come to that conclusion, because you would know if we don't have safe, legal abortion's still going to exist. It's just that it won't be safe and many more people will die. Like, it's just common sense. But again, religion clouds the mind. It literally warps your brain and warps how you view reality. And I don't know, it makes me feel sad, but then I also am like, well, adults, like, you make your choices, you pay the price for them. I don't think there is any excuse for people supporting people that are committing the most heinous of crimes. There is no oops, well, I thought, well, look at what you've done to the world. Like, I hope you're happy, because everything is fucking burning. But yeah, next point. So another thing that I see often with evangelicals, and another reason why I think they support Donald Trump is, by the way, I think this is actually absolutely not true, but when a lot of Christians say, oh, it's soon going to be illegal to be Christian, oh, I'm so glad that, right now it's illegal to go to church, or we're allowed to say, that we think this is right. And it's like, you guys are the most followed religion in the world. Minority where? And especially in America. Like, how could you feel like a persecuted minority? You are, like, don't they literally claim that America's a Christian nation? So how are you saying, oh, now it's going to be illegal to be a Christian? That's never going to be a thing, People have been trying to separate church and state in America for so long. And because Christians are literally everywhere, it's been impossible to do that. So them saying that is just it's completely, like, it blows my mind. But I also think that the reason that they're saying that is because they feel like in this day and age, because people are becoming more empathetic, or people are more accepting to things deemed as sins in these religions, such as homosexuality, transsexuality, and all that kind of stuff. They, are now getting pushback for saying bigoted things. They can't just be homophobic and just get away with it. People will clap back, and they don't like that. So they see that as marginalization. And no, it's not marginalization. You just are mad that you can't be a fucking hater. And too bad, bitch. But I'm just so sick and tired of them saying, like, oh, we're marginalized, Christianity is really good, just because they can't say hateful shit anymore. Like, you don't get to do that. No, you don't get to do that. Sit there and eat your food. And my last point is, I think a lot of, evangelicals support him because they're nationalists, and Christian nationalism is on the rise and has been for a while now. There are so many people that are Christian in America that say America's a Christian country, or this country is for Christians and it should be a Christian country, keep America Christian. And they truly believe that country, those people, like the founding fathers, were ordained by, I can't remember who it is that made a video on this, on like why evangelicals think that way, especially in regards to the founding fathers, that we generally think that they were anointed and God told them to make the Constitution of America for the future and the prophecy, and that America and Israel has a part to play in like the coming time. Like it's literally fucking cuckoo. But these people genuinely believe that, and that is another reason as to why Donald Trump still has support. And I think when it comes to religious people in general, I genuinely do believe that there are some of them, because like I said before, as like black people, we're not all monoliths. Religious people are not all monoliths. But there is something that we can see in a lot of them, and that is they do justify the injustifiable because it aligns with their religion. But I think, what was I going to say? I'm losing my mind. I am actually losing my mind. But I do think that as time goes on, and as hopefully, more things get released with the Epstein files, and as Donald Trump just continues to show his ass, I do think, those evangelicals with like common sense who are, still alert will be like, wait, hold on a second. Something isn't adding up. Which I really think they should already be at that point. If you're not at that point, what are you doing? Like, where are you? But I think as time goes on, we will see a reduction in support from that group in supporting him. But ultimately, there will always be a group of gung-ho, ultra-religious people that will never, ever, ever, ever stop supporting him. Because there are, unfortunately, a group of religious people that think more hate and more persecution is actually confirmation that God is real. Because in the Bible it says that, Christians will be persecuted, you will go through trouble, you will go through tribulation and stuff like that. So they get confirmation from people calling out their bigotry. They say that, God said that this would happen, so he must be true. Which is why, like, I really don't know. Sometimes I don't see any point in arguing with them. I think when it comes to things like that, there is no way to really argue with a religious person, because they will always just see it as, a trial from their God. I think the best way to kind of use their own logic against them is to use what's in their holy books and, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, amplify or expose the fallacies and, the hidden, like, holes in their whole belief system. I think that's the best way to kind of deconstruct it and take it down in front of or with someone who is still very religious. Because trying to use, like, sense and logic when it comes to that shit, it's just never gonna work. It's never gonna work, And even using these fallacies against them, sometimes that even won't make them think, because they'll just be like, well, that's just what God said. Some of them genuinely won't even go further than that. And it is really sad, because it's like I think you should really question this more seriously, especially if you're going to base your whole life on it. You're going to abstain from certain things, you're going to, believe certain things, and live in such a way that is, I don't want to say opposing, but is, if you live in exactly how the Bible commands you as a Christian, most people in this day and age are not living like that. You are going to seem odd and different. Not that that's a bad thing, but there are certain aspects of that that are bad. You know, the bigotry, the if you act like this, then you deserve this. Like, who are you to decide that? You don't get to decide that. But I'm rambling. But yeah, that was kind of like some of the points I wanted to highlight as to why so many evangelicals support Donald Trump and why they will continue to support him. And I think that if you're someone who isn't religious or never grew up in religion and don't really understand how these people think, I think, well, at least I hope that that has kind of given you a little bit of insight as to how like the religious mind works. Because that's how I grew up, you know. And at one point, I genuinely thought that this stuff was normal, this was right, this is how it was. And then I my frontal lobe would develop or some shit, and I was like, that's not right. But yeah, that is the video for today, guys. I really hope that you liked it. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Bye!